You guys can remember the Ancient Shield Season 3, Episode 12, The Inside Man. I was looking forward to this episode, but at the same time, I really didn't know what direction we were heading in this half of the season, because while the mid-season premiere was very strong, as you guys know, it basically closed out the whole Inhuman situation, which I wasn't really happy about, and I was looking forward to seeing what this episode would be like, and I will say, I think this was a much better episode than last week's. Mainly because, not that last week's was bad, but it really felt like a standard episode. It didn't feel like a mid-season premiere. This, however, really, I think, gave us a better idea of where we're headed, and I definitely really like that. But let's just get into this episode, because there's a lot to get into, and I definitely more to say about this episode than I did last week. So, I like the way we start out here. We see on the alien planet, we remember that Coulson killed Ward and headed for the portal, but we then see the Inhuman alien enters Ward's body, relives his memories, and in the Hydra base, the Inhuman Hive, who is the Inhuman that is now in Ward's body, wishes that he could have met Ward. And it's an interesting scene, because it shows, now that while Ward's body is alive, Ward himself is gone, and Hive is completely taken over him. So, and I gotta say, I really think that the actor playing Ward, I can't think of his name right now, but he really does a good job as Hive. Like, you get that creepy vibe from him, and I think he did a good job with that. So Malik comes in, and overhearing says that Ward was a good soldier for Hydra. Hive is satisfied that Ward's a perfect host, and Malik says that he's recruited a new Inhuman. He brings in Lucio from Bogota, and Hive tells the guards to remove the bandages over the man's eyes. Gaera does so, and Lucio paralyzes his captors. He uses his body on Hive, but nothing seems to happen, and Hive then steps away from his paralyzed skin, dissolves it, and sends the particles into Lucio's mouth. So that's very interesting the way that was done. I mean, I didn't really know what was going to happen there, but Talbot is then at the airport with his wife Carla. He asks her not to leave, insisting that he can't say no to the president, because as we know, he's now the new head of the ATCU, and I didn't really know how Coulson was going to react to this, but Carla says he always chooses career over family, and Talbot promises to fix it, but Carla gets on her flight, and I've seen this plot so many times that it's not really shocking to me anymore. I mean, the whole thing with him choosing career over family, I didn't really care as much about. I've never loved Talbot as a character, and this episode featured a lot of him, and that's my main thing in this episode, is that Talbot, for me, didn't really do much. They tried to make his character and give him some development, but I've seen this so many times that I just didn't really care as much. So the general watches the plane prepare for departure. Coulson comes up, asks if everything's okay, and angry Talbot insists that his personal life is his business, walks away, and Coulson goes after him, points out that Talbot hasn't returned his calls, and he reminds Talbot that he's technically his boss, and Talbot insists that Coulson will never be his boss or his partner, and that he's always the man in charge. Coulson does not have a say with anything, and Coulson reminds him that they should be preparing for the symposium in Taiwan, and as they leave, a man secretly follows them. Who this man is, we don't know, but he follows them. And at the base, the team is preparing to leave for the symposium, and Lance then notices that Fitz has a case with him, and Fitz explains it's a new piece of tech that makes gloves. He goes aboard with the plane and takes the case to Coulson's cabin, passing Daisy and Bobbi as they discuss the mission, and Daisy insists that Terrigenesis was an awakening, letting her stop bad people, and Bobbi points out that some of the bad people are Inhumans, and that not all Inhumans are good. And I thought this was a good scene, because Daisy, up to this point, thinks all Inhumans are misunderstood and that they're not actually bad, but Bobby's saying, no, there are some bad ones out there, like Hive, for example. And Inhumans are brand new territory. And she asks Daisy how Lincoln's field up is going with Melinda, and Daisy figures that he's miserable. Daisy and Lincoln is not really doing much for me. I know these two are supposed to be together, but they're not really doing much for me, I gotta say. I don't really see the relationship. They don't seem to have much of a chemistry, and for me, at least, they're not doing much. But I do like Lincoln's character overall. He goes to an airport. Melinda tells him via earbud to look for anyone suspicious. He spots Coulson and Talbot. Melinda reminds him that they're there to protect Coulson, and Coulson and Talbot go outside. Talbot continues complaining about the symposium wasting their time. Meanwhile, Lincoln spots the man following them into the parking garage, and the Inhuman warns Melinda. And as they go to Coulson's car, Coulson tells Talbot that he hopes he and Carla work things out for the sake of their son, George. Melinda warns Coulson just as the man approaches them. Coulson realizes that it's Carl Creel, shoves Talbot into the car, locking him in. And I remember we've seen Creel before. I don't remember how, but I know we saw him before. I just can't remember how we saw him before. I just remember his character. Lincoln blasts Creel, who absorbs the quality of a tire to insultuate himself. Lincoln's lightning bolts are useless against him, and Creel shoves him aside, and we can tell that they really have no power against him. Oh, Creel, if you remember, was from the Season 2 premiere. That's how they knew him. Because I knew we'd seen him before, but the Season 2 premiere was the last time I think we saw Creel, was then. So Melinda arrives and his Creel in the head, with a tire iron. He transforms into steel, and Lincoln shocks him. If you remember, he's made of steel, and nothing can really hurt him, and you can't really, beat him. So he keeps shocking him, even when Melinda and Coulson order him to stand down, but finally stops. Coulson then lets Talbot out, and Talbot says the Creel is there to protect him, and the team places Creel in a containment model, and Fitz and Gemma question him. He explains he got his powers from an experiment, and Gemma asks what it was like to touch a Terrigen obelisk and survive, and Creel doesn't know how he survived it, really. And Fitz suggests that they reopen their file on Creel now they know more about the inhuman DNA. And this is very interesting. The fact that Creel doesn't really know how he's alive and how all this stuff happened, that I found very interesting. I really like that aspect of the episode. So Talbot tells the others that Creel was brainwashed by Hydra. They undid his dirty work, and Talbot insists that Creel has reformed. Basically, Hydra is making all the Inhumans bad. They are responsible for all the bad Inhumans in the world, and I think that's very interesting, the fact that they're the ones that are responsible for this. I like seeing that. So they undid his dirty work. Talbot insists that Creel was reformed, and Coulson agrees that Creel deserves a second chance, but is reluctant to take him on a covert mission, because they really don't know if they can trust him. So Talbot refuses to go without Creel, and Coulson warns the others that they have to have the head of the ACTU at the symposium, and Lance objects, pointing out that Creel killed 2 of his friends, and that there's no way they can trust him. But Talbot assures Coulson that he trusts Creel with his life, and that they pretty much have to trust Creel. No matter what happens, Creel needs to be trusted. So when Daisy promises to take Creel down if he steps out of line, Coulson has Melinda take Talbot to get Creel. Once they're alone, Coulson tells Daisy that she's staying behind. No Inhumans or weapons are allowed at the symposium, and Creel isn't an Inhuman, so he'll pass any DNA screenings, and they shouldn't have to worry about him. So Malik visits Hive, who's reading dozens of books, and he suggests that Hive take a new host body because his current one is damaged, and Hive warns that he can't inhabit an Inhuman, and, he can inhabit other things, but he can't inhabit an Inhuman. So Malik offers Divine to volunteer, but Hive says that Ward will serve his needs until he's ready. So they shouldn't have to worry because, he can use Ward and he's fine, but he's eventually going to need a new host. So the Hydra director promises that there won't be any more setbacks, and Hive says he's glad to hear that, and like I said, Hive for me, he's creepy. I like his character as a villain overall, but he's not really a villain right now. He hasn't really done anything for me, but he does start doing some things in this episode. I think they did a good job with that. Coulson and the others then fly to Taiwan, and Lance watches Creel in the cargo hold. Miranda summons Lance to the briefing, and Lance insists that he's there to make sure that his friends aren't there. Miranda figures that Lance is there because of Bobbi, and she isn't sure if she'd rather have Lance than Creel. And the way that she said that, when Lance points out that he's a friend watching her friends, Melinda says that they aren't friends and walks out. So this I found very interesting that we saw that Melinda said that Lance is only there because of Bobbi. It is foreshadowing Marvel's Most Wanted. If you guys know, there's a possible show that could happen with Lance and Bobbi doing their own thing, and I feel like this is foreshadowing that, yeah, that could definitely be possible. And if Marvel's Most Wanted does get picked up to a series, then you can definitely expect Lance and Bobbi to leave the show altogether this season and then go to that show, which would be interesting. I don't really know how Lance and Bobbi would be on their own show, but they're such great characters that I'd be fine with seeing them again. I've always loved their characters. You guys know Lance and Bobbi are two of my favorite characters on the show, and I'd be fine with seeing that, honestly. I think I'd be fine with that. So, very interesting. I like the way that scene was done, and I definitely enjoyed that overall. So, really good stuff with that. Definitely the way that whole thing was done. Sorry guys, I lost my place. Where was I? Oh, there it was. So at the briefing, Coulson explains that there will be 5 other delegates at the symposium. They have information that Malik would like to get his hands on, and figures that one of the delegates is Hydra's inside man. Their mission is to get any information on foreign Inhumans and uncover the inside so they can track him back to Malik, and this is where the show is at its best. For me, you guys know, I love just watching them on a mission. I love seeing the team at work doing their own thing, having a mission, all of them taking part in something. I just love seeing it. We don't get to see a lot of it, so when we see it, it's really cool. So the team arrives at the estate where the Taiwanese government is holding a reception. Talbot goes in posing as a doctor with the CEDU, and when they arrive, Russian Representative Anton Petrov introduces himself, and once Anton excuses himself, Talbot figures that Anton is the inside man because he's Russian, so it must be him. So Coulson goes around shaking the hands of the representatives. The device that Fitz made transmits palm prints to the van outside, and Lance, Melinda, and Bobbi make artificial palm prints. Meanwhile, Zio Chen, the hostess, meets Talbot while Coulson talks with Ellen King, the Australian representative, and once the two women leave, Talbot figures out they're the inside man, and they don't really know who the inside man is. They're just figuring that all these people could be the inside man. So Malik tells Gaera to stay with Hive and call him if anything changes. Once the director leaves, Hive opens the door to his quarters, says he's gonna need Gaera and Lucio to leave him alone. He demands five humans alive. So what does that mean? We don't really know exactly, but all he says is five humans alive, and we don't know what that's all about. If he wants to kill these humans, if he wants them dead, we don't really know. So at the base, Daisy tells Lincoln to spar with her so she can blow off some steam. She punches him, reminds him that they're not using powers. They fight. Lincoln manages to pin her. She breaks free, pins him to the mat, and they start to kiss. And again, Daisy and Lincoln not working for me. I like them as friends. I don't need to see them as a couple. And to me, it seems like they only did this to give Lincoln a purpose and to keep Lincoln on the show. And, I like Daisy and Lincoln. I don't dislike Daisy and Lincoln, but they're just not really doing much for me right now, I gotta say. They're not bad characters. They're just not doing much for me. So, basically, Gemma comes in, asks Lincoln to help her analyze Krill's DNA. The next morning, Talbot used the symposium to order and explains that he hopes they can come to a consensus on how to deal with the inhumans. Coulson explains the inhumans are trying to find their way in the world, and it's important that they see them as humans, because that's what they are. They're really just humans exposed to something, and they're really trying to figure out who they are, and I like that Coulson really broke it down that way, because that's really what's going on. So Melinda enters the secure quarters using the palm print and removes her gear from the champagne bucket she's carrying. Coulson explains how the inhuman DNA works. One of the representatives, Haruto Yakamura, points out that the inhumans could destroy them, and Coulson says that they should think of the inhumans for compassions, and Anton agrees and says that Russia is prepared to offer them a sanctuary, and Yakamura says that it's an arms race and refuses to send them into Russia. Ellen objects to putting all the inhumans in one place and let them coordinate. Lance breaks into Ellen's room, sees Creel leaving his post, and they don't know if they can trust him, because obviously they thought that they could trust him, but now they don't know. Gemma, Ellen, and Fitz test Daisy's blood with a Terrigen. It reacts when they add Creel's blood in. It breaks down the Terrigenesis process, and they realize that Creel's blood could eliminate Inhuman's powers. Daisy comes in, overhears them, and then we meet Natai Zumu, the African representative, sides with Anton, calls for a vote. Talbot talks to Coulson privately, wonders which way he should vote, because he doesn't know which side he's on, if he should be on their side and pretend to be on their side, or if he should, say the truth and actually be on their side. He doesn't really know what to do there. So meanwhile, Melinda intercepts an encryption that Ellen's sending out, which with Lance after Creel. Melinda decrypts the message. Once she does, she tells Bobbi that they have to get in Ellen's room. Lance follows Creel to a truck and realizes that the security guards have guns, and obviously that's very dangerous. So Bobbi makes her way across the window ledges to Ellen's room. She blows the private safe, finds a file on an inhuman that the Australian government has locked up for military experiments. There's no indication that Ellen's connected to Malik and no word from Lance. So Lance avoids the guards, enters the truck, finds a pod inside, holding Talbot's son George. He calls to warn Melinda and Bobbi that they've been set up, just as Creel knocks him out from behind, and obviously, Creel, we can see, is still very dangerous. At the symposium, Talbot announces that he's postponing the vote. He calls in the guards and tells the delegate that there is a traitor among them. He has them arrest Coulson and tells the delegate that Coulson has violated their trust. Malik comes in, says that Coulson's the director of Hydra, and Coulson realizes that Talbot is Hydra's inside man, which I'm not really surprised about. I mean, I didn't really think that Talbot would be on their side. It didn't really make sense, and Talbot's their inside man. Again, I'm not really surprised about that. So the guards find Lance, prepare to shoot, and Bobbi and Melinda attack two of them. Lance takes out the third guard, tells his teammate that Hydra has George. They figure out that Malik is blackmailing Talbot, and Bobbi confirms the guards are Hydra agents. Lance admits that he smuggled some weapons, and Melinda goes to find George while Bobbi and Lance locate Coulson and Talbot. Lincoln tells Daisy that not everyone who could change should change, and he insists that a balance has to be maintained, but Daisy insists that it's a right, that it's their choice if they want to change, and Lance points out that Andrew would have liked a voice, and he didn't get a choice. He was forced to be, what was his name? I can't even remember. Lash. He was forced to turn into Lash, but Daisy warns the government will use the vaccine. Furious, Daisy walks out. Malik then reminds the delegates that he served on the World Security Council, insists that they'll work together to do a good for the world. He says that Coulson would like to exterminate the Inhumans by putting them in one place and shows them the tank keeping George in suspended animation. Malik claims that Coulson can kill any improvised Inhuman and has his agents take Coulson away until the authorities arrive, because obviously he's not doing what they want, and we just see again that Malik is just too powerful. Coulson wants to take him down, but he's just way too powerful. No matter what Coulson does, he's not going to be able to take someone like Malik down, which is horrible to think about, but it really is true. I mean, it's very hard to take someone like him down. So Gaia delivers the 5 healthiest Hydra agents that they could find. Lucio freezes them in place. Hive says that they will serve the greater good, and that's what he meant by 5 agents. He needs these 5 agents to regenerate, and Lucio and Gaia quickly leave, and outside they listen as the 5 volunteers scream, and we are to assume that Hive just killed them. He killed them so that way he could obtain their bodies, and it's really crazy to think about. I mean, really, they're setting that up. But like I said, Hive, my opinion, isn't really doing too much right now. Like, he's not doing much for me, but it seems like Hive can only, like, survive if he kills, which is very interesting. I just really want to find out where they're going with him, because right now I can't really tell. So the agents lock up Coulson, and Malik and Talbot arrive. Talbot demands George back. Malik says he can't do it. The agent grabs Talbot. Malik says they must all be sacrificed for the greater good. The director explains he's building an army, tells his agents to kill them before leaving. Coulson wonders why Talbot is locked up if he knew Malik would double-cross him, and Talbot says that he has an inside man. Creel breaks in, takes out the agent, says that he had to knock out Lance to maintain his cover. He unlocks the cage, and Coulson and Talbot run, and I was confused here. Is Talbot on their side? Is he pretending? I couldn't really tell at this point. So Lance and Bobbi break into the manor. A Hydra agent opens fire. Coulson attaches his artificial hand. Talbot explains that Malik told George as soon as he was appointed to the ATCU. Carla knows and blames Talbot, and Talbot sent her somewhere safe, and that's what's going on there. So Lance covers Bobbi while she throws his batons to distract the agent long enough to knock him out. Another Hydra agent draws a bead on Lance, and Creel arrives, breaks his neck. Talbot and Coulson arrive. The remaining agent says he doesn't know where George is. The general knocks him out. Coulson tells Bobbi and Lance to track Malik via the only road to the airfield. The rest of them will try to find George. Melinda calls, warns that there's a problem. They go outside, and Melinda pulls up to the truck. Daisy goes to Lincoln's quarters, apologizes for her attitude earlier. Lincoln admits that he envies her control over her powers, wishes he had it since he's been in the outside world. He's had too much stress to control his powers, and Daisy told him that sometimes it's good to lose control. She kisses him, they have sex, and again, I'm not feeling it with Daisy and Lincoln. Not that I don't like the characters, it has nothing to do with that. I'm just not feeling like these two actors have chemistry, and that's fine. Not every actor has to have chemistry, and it seems like Lincoln's a character that while the actor that's playing him is very good, he just doesn't really seem to have much chemistry with Daisy, and I don't know if Chloe Bennett and whoever plays Lincoln don't like each other in real life. I don't think that's the case, but they just don't really, I don't see them as a couple. I really don't. I see them as friends, but not as a couple, and they're just not really doing much for me. And the more they focus on them, the more I'm like, they could be giving something much more interesting to Daisy and Lincoln, have them as friends, not as lovers, and then I would believe it. So, maybe do it slower. I mean, just for me, it's not really working. So, the team is back to the base. Talbot holds his son's hand. Coulson assures him that George will be okay. Figures that Carla will be happy to know that Talbot made it right. Talbot admits that he had a little hope. Offers his hand to Coulson. They shake, and it's a good scene. Because remember, he said that, you'll never be above me. It shows that Talbot does need some help, and Coulson leaves him alone. He tells Melinda that the people in Australia managed to get the Inhuman out. Coulson then worries that Malik is reporting to someone or something more powerful. Remember, they don't know about Hive. Hive then kneels among the corpses, covered in the liquefied bodies. The damage to Grant's body towards body heals, and again, we are to assume that what's going on is that basically he needs to kill to survive, and that's crazy. So Malik and Anton take a private place back to Russia. Malik says he wants to help Anton any way that he can, and Anton assures Malik that with his influence, they should be able to overcome any resistance and create a sanctuary state for inhumans. And it seems like they also kind of want to do something with inhumans. They don't want to kill them. They want to use them as weapons pretty much against S.H.I.E.L.D. That's what they want to do. So in the cargo hold below, Lance and Bobbi tell Coulson that they'll call him when they land, and we don't know where they're going. They're going somewhere. They're not with Coulson, and we'll have to see what happens with that. But that's how the episode ends, and like I said, a much stronger episode for me. Some things here and there that I didn't really love. Like, I don't really know where they're headed with Hive. It seems like they want to use him as a weapon against S.H.I.E.L.D., which we'll have to see what's going on there, but me at least, it seems like Hive is someone we've never really dealt with before. Like, he seems like he needs to kill in order to survive, which is crazy because just knowing what he can do, he could kill any of them, really. He could kill any of them. We'll have to see what's going on there. That's definitely going to be very interesting. I like Coulson and Talbot working here. I don't think we're going to see more of it, but I like seeing them in this episode working here. I thought that worked really well. Lance and Bobbi, where are they headed? We don't really know where they're going. We'll have to see what's going on there. And like I said, I do think that they're trying to set up Marvel's Most Wanted a little bit just from the way this is going. I feel like that's really what they're trying to do, that they're trying to set what's going on with that. Lincoln and Daisy, they're just not working for me. I like what they're doing. I like that Lincoln's starting to understand his powers more and Daisy's helping him with that. But them as a couple, they don't have any chemistry. That's my problem. I don't not like them. I really do like their characters, but they just don't really have much chemistry for me, and we'll have to see where that's going. So maybe they'll do more of them in the future, but right now they're not doing it for me, I have to say. Bobbi and Lance, you guys know that I really like these characters. I do think they're setting up Marvel's Most Wanted. Just the way this is going, it seems like that's where we're headed, that they need each other, and very interesting the way that played out. I definitely enjoyed that overall. We'll have to see what's going on with that. But overall, guys, really great episode. I definitely really did enjoy this episode a lot more than last week's. I mean, still not as great as the first half of the season. I definitely will say the first half of the season is still better, but I like the way this is going with them really trying to figure out what to do with these inhumans since they harbor these abilities and they don't really know what to do with them. My next review will be for the Colony season finale, but I do want to talk about something real quick because, I didn't talk about this in my Colony review. I already did my Colony review, but I didn't talk about it in this review, so I'm going to talk about it now. You guys may wonder what's happened to Supergirl, Vinyl, American Crime Story, and Underground shows I watch. What's going to happen to them? Am I still watching them? Yes, I am still watching those shows. What happens is I didn't have time. I've been very tired this weekend. I had my cast party for the musical on Friday, and I didn't get home till like 11 o'clock. That's why I reviewed everything. I didn't get a chance to tell you guys that. But those reviews will be happening next week. I'm gonna binge Supergirl right before the Supergirl Flash crossover. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna watch 4 episodes of Supergirl. I have 3 episodes of Vinyl, 3 episodes of American Crime Story, and then 3 episodes of Underground. I can do that. I will definitely get those out to you guys probably either throughout the week or the weekend. Definitely those will come out. So if you guys are wondering, I am still watching those shows. I got very caught up with other things, so I wasn't able to get those out this weekend. I apologize for that, but I'll try to get them out next week. And I know, like, don't apologize for having a life, but still, I feel bad that I didn't get that out for you guys. But overall, guys, a great episode. Definitely really enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in my next one, which will be for the season finale of Colony, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.